Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from friends coming together to talk about Star Wars and other nerd-related media. You might have noticed I didn't say Puerto Rican friends coming together to talk about Star Wars and other nerd-related media because if you're watching, you see we have someone here, and if you're listening, you will listen to a new voice. But welcome, Chase, to the Triad of the Force. Hi,
Thank
Chase. How's it
you.
going?
I'm good. How are you,
I'm
Goose?
doing so good, so good. It's
Hell
unfortunate
yeah.
that Nani is not here to
I
share on
know.
this occasion, but
Shout out.
if you have all been listening to our previous episodes this week, which we usually do weekly releases, and this week we've released 3 episodes.
Oh, you're keeping him fed.
Yeah, we've been kind of hyping up how we were going to have a surprise 4th episode with a surprise 4th interview, but it was a surprise. This was a Russian doll. It was a surprise inside of a surprise because it wasn't just that it was going to be a 4th episode this week with a new interview, but also a new host, a new co-host, a new
Hey,
correspondent, whatever you want
hey.
to say. It's been a long time in the making, kind of
Mm-hmm.
unspoken
Yeah.
gazes of being like, hey, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
But welcome, Chase. How does it
Thank
feel to
you.
be here at Triad and in podcasting, YouTube, whatever you want to call it? Tell us how you're feeling.
I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm big fan of Gustavo and Nani. Very big fan of Gustavo because Gustavo and I are neighbors. So we spend lots of days and nights together, with our Malort at our favorite bar. But I'm feeling good. I was on the YouTube. I did the podcasting for a while, and then I took a bit of a break. And if I feel very honored to be able to be stepping in this space with you and Nani. I love Triad of the Forest. I feel just very privileged to be here with you guys, and I'm very appreciative. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you. I mean, because I remember when OG member of the Triad Mo decided that they didn't feel like they wanted to be like in the podcast anymore. I mean, they're still
Hmm.
a spiritual member of Triad, and we're still friends
Hmm.
and hang out all the time and text and whatnot. But not here as an active member. And when they stepped down from co-hosting duties, I remember Nanny and I talking about, does Triad of the Force make sense as a name without a third person? And we
Yeah.
were like, yes, we're not gonna change the name. Well, we already have all the marketing material.
Yeah.
Uh, but then the next question was, do we want to, you know, bring in a new co-host? And the question was always like, well, it can't just be anybody. It can't just be, let's just bring a Puerto Rican to bring a Puerto Rican in sake, because if we don't vibe, that's just weird and it seems
Hmm. Hmm.
performative. So it was always about, it needs to be the right person. It needs to be at the
Yeah.
right time. So it's been a
Yeah.
couple of years of just, the triad being a dyad. And
Yeah.
I remember almost exactly a year ago, because we're on the socials, we're celebrating the Acolyte, and it's
Oh
been
yeah.
1 year since the Acolyte aired. And for those of you listening, I'm holding up the visual guide for the Acolyte by Pablo Hidalgo that just came out this week, which is amazing. Buy
Amazing
it.
cover, and that cover is
Amazing, guy.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Oof.
yeah.
Oof.
And I remember I kind of dragged you out of retirement.
Yeah, you did actually.
Dragged you
The
out of
first.
retirement, kicking and screaming for an Acolyte episode, and it felt right.
It did feel right. I had so much fun that time.
It
I
was
really had a
the
lot of fun.
it kind of felt like what Cassian said in the first episode of season 2. You're coming home to yourself.
You're coming home. Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. And also, I love that I'm kind of entering this triad era with you both through Andor, because that's
Mhm.
where we all met for the
Yeah,
first time,
yeah, yeah.
including Nani at season 1 Andor premiere. So I'm yeah, it's all like you said, just divinely timed.
You can't force things, because when you force them,
No.
they won't work. And I feel, yeah, and hopefully this is gonna be a good balance between the
Yeah.
absence of social media that you desire, but then
Hey. Yeah.
the spicy talk every once in a while about the
Yeah.
Star Wars that we like or maybe don't vibe with every once in a while.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely miss being able to talk with people about Star Wars. You and I talk about it all the time. Our friend Trey, we talk about it with Trey, and then it's like, it's I miss the online community. I do miss fandom a little bit, so it's fun to be able to do this with you all. I'll be perusing comments on the YouTubes.
Ooh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, so it feels good to be able to kind of like dip my toe back in without having a full. Hey, I don't want to brag about not having to be on social media because Gustavo, you're helming that ship, and I respect you. I
Helming.
appreciate you for doing it.
I feel like I'm on the Titan Ocean Gate submersible.
You're helming it with a
That carbon
PlayStation
fiber, the
controller.
carbon. I just saw a Netflix documentary. That carbon fiber lining or whatever the hell it was is breaking, and it's gonna,
Would you say would you say that's worth watching? I need to know for
Well,
me.
yesterday I didn't have anything to do. I didn't really
Okay, so it's
wanna
one of those
what. It's one of those
documentaries.
like, it's like, hey, let's watch a Netflix
Perfect.
documentary.
Heard.
Is it bad? No, but is it like, oh my god, I need to see it? It's like,
Yeah.
no, the thing exploded
We know,
because
yeah.
of hubris. We
Yeah,
we knew that a year ago. Knew that a year ago, but we got a little more deets, and we love
absolutely.
deets. But
We love the tea.
speaking about uh, bringing things back to a year ago when
Yeah,
this the journey formally started for a
yeah,
lot of us with Andor season 1 because we had been podcasting for a while, but everything kind of felt like it shifted gears with Andor season 1. And one of the big things that we started doing over here at Triad were roundtable interviews, which was something that we had never participated on before, and it was such a you know amazing thing to be able to kind of all of a sudden talk to these incredible actors and creators and people around the show that make this thing that we've grown to love or appreciate for those people that don't necessarily love Andor. And back then I remember we did a dual interview with Luke Hall
mhm,
and Michael Wilkinson, the production
mhm.
designer and costume designer, respectively, for Andor season 1. And the surprise this week for our extra interview, besides announcing you as a new member of Triad of the Force, it's also that we kind of come full circle again to that,
Yup.
do an interview with Michael Wilkinson, and
Woo!
we had you as our clandestine covert uh, correspondent for that. So how did
Yeah.
that feel? How did that feel to kind of be a secret agent for Trial of the Force and doing this secret
Oh,
interview for us?
it was a fully yeah, it felt like a undercover correspondent, and I felt like I was just secretly I don't know. It was good. It felt good. Honestly, it was kind of nice having you as a part of it because it was my first time doing an interview in a long time. And being able to send you some questions and hear your feedback was very helpful. So, but it felt great. Michael's an incredible creative professional. I love obviously all of his work, not only in Star Wars but outside of Star Wars too. And it
What
was
other
such an
stuff
honor.
has he worked on? If you don't mind
American
illuminating.
Hustle. He's done
Mhm.
American Hustle. He did a couple DC projects that are really good.
Oh
I forget
yes.
which, but like, yeah, but those were a little bit while ago. Um, and yeah, he always just turns it out. And I just love hearing the way he talks about his work. So being able to speak with him again was this absolute honor. Um, and I'm excited to share the interview because I get to talk about Mon Mothma. And anytime I'm talking about Mon Mothma, I'm happy. I'm good.
But he recognized you.
He maybe we don't know, maybe someone told him, maybe little birdie was like, "Yes, you've met this person before I got on Zoom," but he did he said, "We he mhm." I'm, like, blushing. I stepped into the space and he said, "Hey, you interviewed me a couple years ago for season 1." I said, "Yeah, oh my god, stop, I'm blushing." And then, he said, "It was a pleasure to reconnect with me." So,
It was
Michael,
wonderful. It was
always a pleasure
wonderful.
to reconnect with you. Hopefully, our paths cross soon.
And this was very much an upgrade because last time we did it as a round
Yes.
table, so it was very
Oh my
okay. Now
god.
it's your turn. Now,
Mhm.
now it's the next podcast, so on and so
Yeah.
forth, which was very rigid. And
Yeah.
this time it was a one-on-one, so
Oh, yeah.
it much more privileged, I would
Like
say.
a full 15 minutes to be able to just sort of
Just to
sit there
just
and
have him to yourself.
yeah. I know. It's such an honor, such a privilege, like you said.
And especially right now, because I don't know if you're, I mean, if you're living on planet Earth, you might have noticed that Disney slash Lucasfilm is doing a massive Emmys for your consideration campaign.
Yes.
Andor, they submitted Andor for I think 26 category, 23,
Yeah.
26 category, something like that, which is basically every single category. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna list them because it's all of them, basically. But since we're talking about Michael Wilkinson, they submitted him and his team for costume design, obviously, and for episode 203, which is Harvest, which for everyone who doesn't remember which episode that was, that's Niamos, baby. That's the
Yup.
wedding, and
Yup.
that I mean,
Yup.
and Michael wasn't slouching in any of the episodes, but this one in particular was particularly stunning, even though that was redundant saying particularly two times in a row. But as we're recording this, Michael Wilkinson on Instagram dropped a really fascinating post where he lists out the numbers of every single thing that he was involved with in terms of the sets, costumes, people, etc., etc. So it was nine planets visited, 205 uh, people in the principal cast, 715 number of principal costumes made, 3,050 number of extras in
Insane.
costumes, 92 number of full-time costumers in the costume department, 30 additional costumers needed for days with 500 extras, 8 number of months of shooting, and 8 to 22 number of hours in Andor season 2. Now there's a bunch of other stats that he's throwing out here in that post, so make sure to go check it out so you can see it. But in terms of what we care about, and mostly for the Emmy consideration campaign, and some of what you're talking about in the interview is in Chandrilla for the wedding, there were 220 wedding guests and 170 Chandrillans, which is absurd.
It's absurd. And I love that he like just had this empire of people, like just this huge team that they're all cooking together because you can tell on shows like this, you can really tell that it's like a meeting of a million different minds because that high level of collaboration always yields such beautiful results. And they had one of the fiercest, most creative leaders to help them through it with Michael. So
Mhm.
yeah, it really reads. That post is great. We should link that. We should link that Instagram post in the description so
Description
people can
below.
clip it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, without further ado, let's see what all the fuss is about. Let's see what Michael has to
Yeah.
say. Let's see how your debut interview
A
went,
little
and
rusty, but it's okay. It's pretty good.
and for everyone's enjoyment, here is Chase's premiere interview with costume designer Michael Wilkinson. Enjoy.
You. Thank
Yeah, did we
you so
talk a couple of
much.
years ago?
Yes. Oh my God. I really appreciate that. Yes. Thank
Oh,
you.
nice to see you again.
You as well. I'm so excited to talk with you today. Should I just jump into it or are we waiting for something else?
Let's do it. Let's talk.
Amazing, amazing.
Hmm.
Well, I guess I'll start with a little bit of an icebreaker, which I wanted to ask over your years of working on Andor, both seasons 1 and 2, have there ever been any effects on how you dress personally? Like, have you ever been getting ready for the day and had a character pop in your head?
Wow, that's an interesting question. No, I tend to be the costume designer. I have my own uniform.
Yeah.
That's I slip into my jeans and my t-shirt and my jacket, and I come to work. It's sort of I like to put my energy into uh, creating personas and costuming for other people. So there's a certain neutrality to the way I dress that is probably not really influenced by Star Wars at all.
That makes sense. That's great. I love it. Keep it separate. I get it. Well, I wanted to ask. You've mentioned a few times in your press that how much you love being able to create entire cultures from the ground up. Shangela and Gorman being two prominent examples of this season. I was wondering in that process of building like entire societies. What moments of that process stick out to you as your favorites? Do you have like a personal favorite part of whether it's the beginning rumblings of like coming up with these ideas of a whole society and culture, or is it towards the end where you're like adding details? If you have a favorite part of that process.
I think I think I'd have to say all parts of the process are
Fair.
so pleasurable. You know, whether that's the very initial discussions with Tony about what's important about this culture, what are we trying to tell, what is adding to our story going to this planet, what are the ideas and themes that we have to tell with this culture. So that's
Mhm.
the really important initial stage. Then I take that information and I talk with our production designer, Luke Hull, about how we're going to express that, visually, what textures, what palette,
Mm.
start really deep diving into these cultures. We talk about what resources, what materials they might have on this planet to build their architecture, to build their clothing, what are their
Mhm.
belief systems and their traditions and their climate, what influences the way that they look. So that's extremely pleasurable as well, and bringing in all of our references and mood boards. Then the next step is I talk to our fabric team. So I really
Mm.
important to talk to them about different fabrics that come to mind, different, getting palettes together. They go out
Mhm.
to the world and, source these incredible fabrics that we put into our fabric rooms up on the wall, and we start sort of painting, if you like,
Mhm.
using fabrics to sort of paint these different cultures. And I work with my illustrators, and we come up with images of what these people might look for. Then we take these illustrations to the workroom, and we start using the illustrations to build pieces. Often for any culture, well, like for Gorman, I think we had
Mhm.
about 500 extras that we had to dress from scratch. With Star Wars, you can't go to the rental houses and pull boots and trousers and shoes and shirts. You have to do everything from scratch. So, with my workroom, I generally create about 20 to 30 pieces for each culture:
Mhm.
trousers, jackets, capes, gilets, tunics, sort of elements that I feel like will really sum up these cultures. Then we take them to the factories and we do 50 of this, 50 of that. Then we bring them back and we over dye them, and then we embellish them. We have our fittings, and then we create accessories and jewelry and millinery to really flesh out these cultures. So every every element of this process is incredibly pleasurable. And when you're working with the incredible team that I had about 90 customers working with me for a period of over a year,
Yeah.
4 months of prep, 8 months of shooting. This incredible marathon of engagement and concentration on building all of these different cultures. It was just a glorious creative process.
It sounds epic. It sounds like a really exciting way to work, especially with like all the meeting of the minds. And you mentioned painting with different fabrics. Do you ever incorporate like other forms of media in like earlier research or like brainstorming sections? Like, do you ever like build a playlist or listen to specific kind of music if you're working on Shangela, or look at different mediums of like maybe actual paintings or maybe taking photographs of like nature? Do you ever incorporate other sort of mediums and things in like that early part of the process for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I really cast the net wide with my
Mm.
referencing. I look at painting, I look at modern artists, I look at
Mm.
performance art, I look at graphic design, I look at
Mm.
the world of gaming, and of course I look at the last 50 years of image making within the Star Wars universe. There's been
Yeah.
so many iterations of all of these different corners of the galaxy, so many different iterations of all of the leading characters, and so there's just this wealth of
Yeah.
imagery. We have what we call the war room, where we put our illustrations, we put all our references. I work with a textile team
Mhm.
within my department that we gather raw materials and fabrics, and then we create our own fabrics through screen printing and dyeing and
Mm.
embellishments. So we create our own textural world for each of these planets that sort of reverberates visually with the themes and the vibe of each of the worlds we're creating. So it's this wonderfully rich creative process that is yeah, a complete pleasure to experience with my costume collaborators.
You mentioned accessories, and I honestly really have been excited to ask you this question because accessories are, especially jewelry specifically, and especially Mon Mothma is one of my favorite characters. And I've kind of noticed, I can't tell if it's because I'm looking too close as a fan, but I can't help but notice it feels as if in her most risky and emotionally vulnerable moments, I've noticed she wears like a dangly earring, and it adds a sense of like fragility to me. Like it really is like a precarious piece of jewelry to have like this fragile little long piece of earring. That kind of I think speaks to her precarious situation as like a senator and also a rebel sympathizer. And even like I remember at Leia's wedding, it almost looked like a teardrop in a way. So I was wondering what your process is for accessorizing with jewelry, whether with Mothma or another character. Like, is it as simple as, oh, this looks pretty with this costume, or is there a little bit more to it for you as a storyteller?
Oh my gosh, Chase, I'm so happy to hear you have these observations because all of these elements are really I thought about. Nothing is accidental, and I'm so
Yes.
gratified to hear that it's coming across to the audience. No, nothing is accidental. Nothing is just because it would look pretty or look cool. A lot of thought goes into it. So when it comes to Mon Mothma, you hit the nail on the head. The key to her costuming for me is this dichotomy between strength and poise and fragility and humanity, the precariousness of her situation. She has to come across to the world as this very together character, a senator who is she's a leading figure of the community. She's very trustworthy and dependable. But in the background, she's, funneling all of her wealth into secretly to the Rebel Alliance, and she's putting her family and all of her loved ones in so much danger.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to hint, her architectural Chandrila and costume is very strong. It's confident. It has this sense of ritual and tradition, but always there's an element of fragility. So whether it's the fluttering of her pleated silks, whether it's her draped jewelry that I created that has a sense of movement and sort of and adds a sort of edginess to her visuals, everything is sort of considered. And when it comes to the jewelry, I think a main reference point for her is the way that she's sort of been portrayed across the year in her canon. She's often drawn with this sort of draped chain of office across her chest. And so I took that as a starting point for the jewelry of all Chandrila, and I sort of developed it into a whole range of accessories where you get this draped chain. It's the thing that they wear from ear to ear, across their chest, diagonally, non-symmetrically, symmetrically. So it gave me a real sort of key to creating an accessory that would be important in the world of Chandrila.
I love that. Yeah, it really reads so well, and I mean, just the way I'm a big earring person, so watching the way those earrings like dangle with Genevieve O'Reilly's acting, it's magic. It's so good. Speaking of the wedding, I did want to also ask. I read on StarWars.com that your costume design process was very much intertwined with the choreography of the ceremony, and I was wondering if that is something that is common, especially like there's choreography in a lot of scenes of different kinds, whether it's fight choreo or dance choreo and something more ceremonial like the wedding. And I'm wondering how often does that physical movement of a scene affect your work? And are there moments where there are last minute changes to a costume because of physicality that comes through on set, or is it pretty much all locked in beforehand?
Yeah, I think when you're designing for a major dance sequence like the one that we see at the end of episode 3, the movement of the costume is really foremost in your mind. So I really I grabbed onto this idea of pleated material and how well that moves when a character is moving. And so I knew I wanted the final images of episode 3 to be for Mon Mothma to sort of be lost in this world of swirling fabric. She's finally letting her guard down. She's losing herself in the oblivion of the music and the dance. And so I came up with this idea of swirling fabrics. A lot of the pleating is sort of attached to people's arms. So when they're waving their arms around, the fabric comes with them. And so it sweeps around the frame in all of these beautiful silky fabrics and beautiful translucent silks and flowing fabrics. So that was key to me creating this costume for Mon Mothma. And yes, on the day, we decided to sort of add attachment pieces from her shoulder pleating to her wrist. And so with choreography, it could really achieve this wonderful thing. When she moved her arms, she could disguise herself and lose in the fabric.
Yeah.
And with the music, with the specifics of the movement, I think was really effective in this sort of finally, in the rigidity and formality of the Chandrilan planet breaks down and explodes into this sea of colorful fabrics. So
and colorful soft fabrics too, where it's like there is such a rigidity, but then it's such a softness that I think also speaks to like the lushness and like almost like privilege of that that setting. You know what I mean? It's very like posh, but also again, like you said, very very rigid. I also wanted to ask about Cassian's Karl Lagerfeld look because it was not on my Andor season 2 bingo card, but I'm very happy it happened. Why did you settle on that sort of expression of a designer instead of something maybe softer or more flamboyant? Because I was watching that, I was thinking about Luthen's alter ego. You know, he's very hardcore, but then his alter ego is very flamboyant and very like up, up, up. And so I wonder, you know, where did you settle on? Why did you settle on that Karl Lagerfeld, like more, you know, stronger, you know, sharper look for Andor for Cassian?
I think for me, it had to be the sort of fashion designer that was the most different to how we normally see
Oh
Cassian.
yeah.
So, you know, usually he wears kind of worn out, beautiful earth tone colors. It's quite layered. It's very kind of expressive and kind of human in that way. And with Varian Sky, his fashion designer alter ego, I wanted it to be the most extreme opposite to that. So we have very graphic, sharp lines. We have deep, you know, deep purple aubergine sort of tones. We have a white shirt. We have metallic, you know, very designed accessories, the tie pin, the eyewear. Everything was very considered and self-aware. So that's why the sort of Karl Lagerfeld type of fashion designer spoke to me, that it would be immediately, audience would get, okay, fashion designer, that's what a fashion designer looks like, and also the most extreme different to how we normally see Cassian.
So the difference, yeah, is like really in that cleanness and like you said, all the textures in that. I was told we have about 2 more minutes, so I guess I wanted to ask you, what would you say as a designer who's been working for a long time, what separates or distinguishes Andor's costume design from other sci-fi series?
I think I always go back to, you know, a George Lucas quote that, you know, for him it was very important for the visual worlds of Star Wars to always connect back to Earth, our own experiences here on Earth, so that these characters we could connect with. They weren't sort of way out fantasy figures that are wearing these crazy clothes that we just can't connect with. But I always tried to sort of put into each design something that we recognize, you know, something that we can connect with. Oh, okay, this reminds me of the resistance fighters from World War II, or this kind of resonates with a Middle Eastern culture, or the formality of a Japanese culture. So I kind of always wanted to put these visual sort of touch points into the costuming and that really aligned well with Tony Gilroy's thinking about the characters. He wanted them always to be very grounded, believable, real characters that are very well-rounded, three-dimensional. There's no kind of world of iconography or easy decisions or tropes or cliches. You know, everything had to be there for a reason, not just because it looked cool or looked Star Warsy. It had to be grounded. So that sort of was very important to my approach to the costumes of Andor.
Amazing. It reads flawlessly. Amazing job as always. It's so great to be able to talk to you again, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Chase. A real pleasure to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
That was pretty good. I think you did a pretty good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm glad that we did that quick night before power. No, you're not allowed to say that anymore.
Right.
That quick get together to talk about maybe the order of the questions, because I think you hit gold, and you got a couple of great answers from him. Well, what was your experience while you were talking to him, and did any of his answers, you know, did he surprise you with any of those answers?
Hey, one of my favorite surprises was I mean, I just love hearing what people. I love it when a set is alive. You know what I mean? I love it when there's decisions being made last minute while working on a project, because there's so much work that goes into going into a project. But to be able to like make on the fly decisions like that, when he mentioned how like Mon Mothma, they decided to attach her sleeve to her wrist so she could kind of like hide behind it, and use it as sort of a veil, kind of hiding her true intention and her true character, as a rebel icon, a rebel mother. Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite
She was
things.
dripping. She was dripping.
She really was dripping. Yeah. So that was like, I just loved being able to hear about like that last minute change because I thought that was just interesting and genius as always. Did you have a standout moment from that short but sweet interview?
The beginning, 100%. Having Michael Wilkinson recognize you and be, hey,
Stop.
we talked. It was so heart. It was so heartwarming, and it got me.
I really blushed on the
I
the
live I
cameras.
live for the little things, and
Yeah,
that just made it. Made it.
absolutely.
One of those
Yeah.
things that I just loop, and I'm just like, ah, made me happy because if this disgusting visage would
No,
have been in front of him, he would have been like, ugh, this
no.
this is what you send my way.
Hey,
So
I think if
I'm
you're
glad
the
that it
one who
didn't.
came in to interview him, he would have been the one blushing.
No, please,
Yeah.
please, no. No. That's no, please. But I will admit that as wonderful as it was to listen to your interview and see you interview Michael Wilkinson and have that under our Triad belt, not
Mm.
gonna lie, a little jealous because I've been wanting to talk to Luke Hall for a while and be,
Yeah.
hey, flex my, oh no, I'm an architect. I can talk about
Mhm.
design with you,
Mhm.
and it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Here you are,
Not yet.
not even a week into Triad, and boom, already being a celebrity talking you know, with the amazing Michael Wilkins. Maybe you'll even get the Luke Hall interview, and I won't.
No, no, no. Listen, you'll get the loophole. No matter, even if you're working, I'll call in sick for you, and we're gonna send you straight to the loophole interview.
I will say that it seems that Michael cares more about this Emmy than Luke does because Michael is putting in the work. He's
Yeah,
on social
he
media. He's on
really is
interviews. Luke is
huge.
just, I don't know. He's probably in Tahiti or something. He's relaxing because he doesn't seem to care that much. He posts something on Instagram like every 2 weeks, and that's it.
Fair. Well, I hope Michael's going to Tahiti next.
He deserves it. He
He
deserves it.
does. He does.
But
And he deserves that Emmy, Diva. We got to get Michael that
that's
Emmy. That's
that's
what we
what
need
I
to
was
do.
gonna ask you. How do you
Yep.
feel about not just Michael and the rest of the costume department's, uh, ability, but odds of getting an Emmy? But what do you think of Andor as a whole? It's because Star Wars always has kind of a bad reputation in
Yeah.
award shows, but since Andor is different, do you think that the Emmys are gonna recognize it, or do you think they're gonna snub it?
I think there's a really strong chance. I was thinking about this the other day because I saw one of their beautiful for your consideration ads for Andor. And I have found that this season has generated so much talk, like with non Star Wars people. Like, I had people at work, people like at a coffee shop talking about, oh, I've heard like really good things about that. That's a Star Wars show, right? And like, I think the way that I was introduced to people has been like just phenomenal television. Like, because people are always, a little bit surprised. It's kind of like the Star Wars superhero thing. Sometimes if
Yeah.
people don't necessarily aren't gravitated towards those types of projects, they're surprised to know that something can be as compelling as Andor is. And I've just noticed that when season 2 is premiering, a lot of non-Star Wars people were talking about it, and I think that bodes very well for the Emmys. What about you?
I feel a certain amount of cynicism about it, just because. I mean, there's a
No.
part of me, obviously, that wants Andor to win because I mean, I'll hurl all the awards to it because if it were
Yeah.
up to me, this is amazing. It's my favorite thing. But there's this. It has stiff competition. It's got The Pit, it's got Severance, got like a bunch of other amazing shows that I mean I haven't seen, but I've heard are amazing. So there's this stigma about prestige television versus, and
Mhm.
you were talking about it, like comic book films suffer from this as well, where it's just like, oh, it's the franchise thing, and it doesn't deserve it because it's just its appeal is for a wide audience or the nerds or whatever. It's
Right.
not this
Right.
thing for the intelligentsia. So that's my fear. My fear is that maybe costume or music or some of these technical awards are the things that they'll default to be like, throw them a bone, and not to say that it doesn't deserve the awards in those areas necessarily, but Genevieve O'Reilly and I was gonna say Cassian Andor and Diego Luna crushed as actors in their respective
Oh
roles.
yeah.
So
Oh my
if they
god.
don't get at least a nomination for it, I'm just like, come on, what are we even doing? Because
I agree.
season one, and we've said this ad nauseum here at Triad, season one, the fact that Fiona Shaw and Stellan Skarsgård didn't get, so guest actor or whatever hell that
Mhm.
category is called, nominations for their roles, I thought was absolutely criminal. So, but we'll see. Maybe they were saving the awards for the next season, kind of what they did with Return of the King, where they didn't give a
Mm.
lot of awards to Fellowship
Mhm.
and the Two Towers, just waiting. It's like, we know that there's three of
Yeah.
them. Let's wait for
Yeah.
this to finish so we can just give it to the last one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know.
I find that more people are talking about it this season than last. So I think that's it. I also have you ever gotten someone to watch a show? It's a hard thing to do, but I've gotten 3 people in my life, 3 households to stream Andor. And every single it's a lot of people. Like it's a lot. It
It
takes
is.
a
It
lot
is.
to
It
get
is.
someone to convince them to watch a show.
I mean,
Three
I got
households.
my partner to do it, and that
Yeah.
was rough. And now we're now we're making stuff. So
Yes,
that
I'm
speaks
so
that
excited.
speaks to the quality.
It
And
does. My therapist is watching it now.
oh,
He's loving it. And when a therapist watch TV,
you know,
the Emmys should listen.
they
Yeah.
should they should. But now we just have to sit and wait. Hopefully now, maybe before I don't know when the Emmy nominations will come out, but maybe by then, maybe we'll get an extra interview with Luke Hall. But it's just,
Hey.
but this is just I'm lighting some sage, lighting a candle, doing all the things. Maybe pull out a
Setting.
rosary that's
Mhm.
dusty somewhere, and see if that one works. Who knows? And see if we get it. But but I think for now, this is short and sweet, a beautiful introduction for Chase here at Triad of
Thank
the
you.
Force. Another
Yeah.
amazing interview with another amazing creator and designer for Andor. But before we leave, Chase, any parting words or words of welcome? I don't know. This is, I
I'm
mean, it's a
hey,
goodbye to the episode, but it's a hello to you. So I don't know what to ask from you right
you
now.
said it better than I. It's a goodbye to the episode. Hello to you. I'm very excited for my Triad journey. I hope one day we'll be able to record in person. That would be a vibe.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
We're cooking. You and I are in talks. I can't wait to
There's a
hang out with
Google Doc.
Nani.
There's a Google
There's a
Doc.
Google Doc. Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited. Yeah. And thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you to everyone who's listening.
No, thank you for being open to coming out of retirement. I know it's hard to, come back from Florida and
Hey.
leave the boat, and just come back to work. But
Yeah.
we appreciate it. We appreciate it here. I'm very sad that our 401k program is not that robust here
Yeah.
at Triad, but we are
But you
very.
have dental. You offer dental.
It's we can discuss it. It's we can discuss it. Um,
Okay, great.
we can discuss it. But yeah, we're very excited about what the future holds for Triad and this new era, and hopefully there's new things that we haven't done before as a
Yeah.
podcast and YouTube channel that we can explore and keep growing
Hell
because
yeah.
we're not done. We're not done in the future. Even though the world's on fire, the future's
Hey.
bright. I don't know if that even makes sense, but you know.
The fire is pretty bright. It's a bright, big fire.
And that's and Luthen said that it will burn very
Yeah.
brightly. But with that, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We have been Triad of the Force. If you haven't yet, please make sure to share, like, subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review or leave a rating, a comment, whatever it is. I don't know how much it helps, but it definitely does. It will
They
at
say
least
it
boost
helps
our
a lot.
egos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they
say it
say
helps a
that. They
lot.
say there's an algorithm. I don't know how it works, but please make sure to do that if you haven't, and if you have, thank you so much. But we hope you've enjoyed our journey with Andor. I hope you've enjoyed this barrage of a week of so many interviews and enjoyed all the conversations that we've had with Tony Gilroy and Michael Wilkinson and
Mm.
Margit Pfeiffer and Alan Tudyk. And we hope that you
Oh,
continue
Mhm.
continue to join Triad as we embark on this new journey with Chase. But until next
Yes.
time, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.